In a small town in Ohio, on a cold winter morning in 1847, a boy named Thomas Alva Edison was born. No one knew that this boy, who would later be called slow and unfit for school, would one day become one of the greatest inventors in human history. Edison's life wasn't about luck or privilege. It was about relentless determination, unshakable belief, and the courage to fail again and again until he succeeded. Thomas was the youngest of 7 children. His mother, Nancy Edison, was a teacher, and his father, Samuel, was a struggling businessman. From a young age, Thomas was curious, endlessly curious. He would take apart toys, clocks, and even household gadgets just to understand how they worked. But his teachers didn't see curiosity. They saw disruption. One day, his school principal told his mother that young Thomas was mentally slow and too dumb to learn. Heartbroken, his mother decided to teach him at home. That moment changed everything. She told Thomas, "You are not slow. You are just different, and different is good." With his mother's encouragement, Edison began reading everything he could find: science books, chemistry manuals, and mechanical guides. By the age of 12, he had set up a tiny laboratory in the basement of his home. He mixed chemicals, experimented with wires, and filled notebooks with ideas. But money was always a problem. So, at 12 years old, Edison took a job selling newspapers and snacks on a train. He turned the baggage car into his moving laboratory. There, between passengers and luggage, he performed experiments, often risking his job and safety. Once, one of his chemical experiments exploded, setting fire to the train car. He was thrown off the train, but not before he learned a lesson he would never forget. Failure is just another step toward success. By his teenage years, Edison had lost much of his hearing due to illness and an accident. Many people would have given up, but not him. He saw his partial deafness as an advantage. "It helps me concentrate," he once said. "I'm not distracted by noise." Instead of focusing on what he lost, he focused on what he could build. At the age of 16, Edison began working as a telegraph operator. He spent long nights practicing Morse code and experimenting with telegraph machines. He wanted to make communication faster and easier. His mind was always racing with new ideas. One of his early inventions, an automatic telegraph, caught people's attention, and soon Edison realized that invention could be more than a passion. It could be his life's purpose. But the road to success was not smooth. In 1869, he moved to New York City with almost no money in his pocket. He struggled to find food, shelter, and opportunity. Yet, instead of feeling defeated, he turned every obstacle into motivation. After days of searching, he managed to fix a broken machine in a financial office and impressed the company so much that they offered him a full-time position. That single repair marked the beginning of Edison's career as an inventor. In the next few years, Edison created dozens of devices, improvements in telegraphy, electrical engineering, and sound recording. But his true masterpiece was yet to come. In 1876, he established his own laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey, a place that would later be called the Invention Factory. It was there that Edison and his small team worked day and night, often sleeping on tables and eating little, driven only by one goal: to create something the world had never seen before, the electric light bulb. At the time, the idea of electric light seemed impossible. Gas lamps dominated the world. Scientists had tried to create electric light before, but none could make it last long enough or be affordable for homes. Edison believed he could change that. He began experimenting with thousands of materials: carbon, platinum, bamboo, paper, cotton, anything that could serve as a filament to produce light. Days turned to nights, and failures piled up. 100 experiments failed, then 500, then 1,000. His assistants grew tired. Many told him to stop, that it was impossible. But Edison refused. "I have not failed," he said firmly. "I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." That sentence would become one of the most powerful quotes in history, a symbol of perseverance and faith in the face of endless defeat. Finally, after thousands of trials, one night in October 1879, something miraculous happened. Edison and his team tested a carbonized cotton thread inside a vacuum bulb. The bulb glowed, bright, warm, and steady. It didn't burn out after seconds or minutes, but stayed lit for hours. Edison had done it. The world would never be the same again. News of the invention spread like wildfire. Crowds gathered outside Menlo Park just to see the light glowing in the night. Newspapers called it the light of a new era. Edison had turned darkness into light, literally. His invention not only changed how people lived, but also marked the beginning of the modern electric age. But Edison didn't stop there. Over the next decades, he would go on to invent the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and make improvements that shaped the foundation of modern technology. By the end of his life, he held more than 1,000 patents, a record that still inspires innovators today. Yet, despite all his success, Edison never forgot where he came from. The boy who was told he was too dumb to learn. The boy who sold newspapers to fund his experiments. The man who failed over 1,000 times but never gave up. His story became the ultimate example of resilience and the power of belief. When asked about the secret to his success, Edison once said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." He believed that hard work, persistence, and curiosity mattered far more than talent. To him, failure was not the opposite of success, it was the path to success. In his later years, Edison continued to work tirelessly, often sleeping just a few hours a night. Even when his eyesight faded and his health declined, he was found in his lab, surrounded by tools, notebooks, and wires. The same spark that drove him as a child still burned bright. He had dedicated his life to one mission: to make the world a better, brighter place through innovation. Thomas Edison passed away in 1931 at the age of 84. On the night of his death, people across America turned off their electric lights for 1 minute in his honor, a symbolic gesture to the man who had given them light. Edison's legacy lives on in every bulb that lights our homes, in every device that powers our lives, and every dreamer who refuses to give up. His story teaches us that failure is not the end, it is the beginning of growth, that persistence can turn darkness into light, that one person with enough determination can truly change the world. So, the next time you face failure or doubt, remember Thomas Edison, the boy who was told he was too slow, the man who failed 1,000 times, and the genius who turned those failures into the light that still shines today. His journey reminds us of a simple truth. It's not how many times you fail that matters, it's how many times you stand back up.